15. Black celebrities who tragically died alone. Behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, many black celebrities tragically passed away alone, far from the adoration they once received. Despite their fame and fortune, isolation, addiction, and personal demons often led them to their untimely deaths. From the legendary Red Fox to the raw talent of DMX, their stories are a chilling reminder that fame doesn't guarantee happiness. Want to know more about these shocking and heartbreaking endings? Hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more eye-opening stories you won't forget. Red Fox. Red Fox, born John Elroy Sanford on December 9, 1922, was a pioneering comedian and actor who rose to fame with his iconic role as Fred Sanford in the hit sitcom Sanford and Son. Often credited with revolutionizing stand-up comedy, Fox's career spanned decades, and his influence on comedy is still felt today. In the 1970s, he became one of the highest-paid comedians in the United States, with an annual income exceeding $4 million. His success wasn't limited to television. Fox had a reputation as a bold and innovative comedian, blending risque humor with sharp wit. He had an impeccable ability to bring laughter, often focusing on race-family dynamics and social issues. However, despite his professional achievements, Fox's personal life was riddled with struggles that eventually overshadowed his fame. His wealth, which seemed endless during the height of his career, was quickly drained by gambling and extravagant spending. Fox had a notorious gambling habit which led him to lose large sums of money on a regular basis. He lived a lavish lifestyle, buying luxury cars, mansions, and even owning his own casino. But as his wealth dwindled, Fox's fortunes shifted dramatically. By the 1980s, Fox found himself in deep financial trouble. He owed millions in back taxes and faced mounting debts. Despite the continued success of Sanford and Son, he was no longer the wealthy and adored comedian he once was. His personal life also took a toll, with multiple failed marriages and strained relationships with family and friends. In the final years of his life, Red Fox lived alone in a small, rundown apartment in Las Vegas, far removed from the fame he had once enjoyed. On October 11, 1991, while on the set of a sitcom that was meant to revive his career, Fox suffered a fatal heart attack. Tragically, his passing went unnoticed for several moments. The crew believed he was simply acting out one of his famous heart attack scenes, a typical bit for his character Fred Sanford, who frequently faked heart attacks for laughs. Fox died alone, with no family by his side, a cruel irony for the man who had brought so much laughter to the world. His funeral was funded by his friends and colleagues, who had to raise money to cover the expenses. Red Fox, a man who once entertained millions, ended his life in painful silence and isolation. Screaming Jay Hawkins. Screaming Jay Hawkins, born Jealousy Hawkins. On July 18, 1929, in the small town of Cleveland, Ohio, was a musician, singer, and songwriter who became a trailblazer in the world of blues and rock music. Known for his dark theatrical performances, Hawkins was one of the pioneers of shock rock. His music was influenced by traditional blues, jazz, and boogie-woogie, but his on-stage persona was like no other. He performed in a way that was both macabre and sensational, often accompanied by props such as a skull and a bone through his nose, which became a signature part of his act. Hawkins is perhaps best known for his 1956 hit, "I Put a Spell on You," a track that would go on to influence countless musicians, including Nina Simone and Creedence Clearwater Revival. His raspy, powerful voice and dramatic performances made him a legend in the world of blues and rock. He often performed in front of packed audiences, and his wild antics, including his trademark eerie laugh, made him a beloved figure in the world of live performances. Despite his early success, Hawkins's personal life was filled with chaos. He was known for his wild behavior offstage, and his drinking and womanizing were often the subject of gossip. Hawkins was also a self-proclaimed ladies' man, boasting about having fathered anywhere from 57 to 100 children over the course of his life, though the true number remains unknown. However, his personal life was not as glamorous as his stage persona. His battles with alcohol were well documented, and he often spoke about his struggles with the bottle. By the 1990s, Hawkins' career had significantly slowed down. His once iconic performances became less frequent, and his financial situation began to deteriorate. In 2000, Hawkins was performing in Europe when he suddenly fell ill. He was rushed back to the United States and admitted to a hospital in New Jersey, where he was diagnosed with an aortic aneurysm. On February 12, 2000, Hawkins died alone in the hospital at the age of 70. Despite having claimed to have a large number of children, none of them were present at his bedside during his final moments. His body was left unclaimed for several days, and the hospital had to make arrangements for his burial. Screaming Jay Hawkins, the larger-than-life figure who once captivated audiences with his dark stage presence and powerful voice, passed away in obscurity and loneliness, a tragic end to a legendary career. Ike Turner. Ike Turner, born on November 5, 1931 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, was one of the most influential and controversial figures in the history of rock and roll. Turner is best known for his role as the architect of Tina Turner's career, as well as for his groundbreaking work in shaping the sound of rock rhythm and blues. His 1951 hit Rocket 88 is often cited as one of the first rock and roll songs, making him a pioneer in the genre. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Ike and Tina Turner's act became a major force in the music industry with their fiery performances and chart-topping hits like Proud Mary and River Deep, Mountain High. Despite his musical genius, Ike Turner's life was plagued by personal turmoil and professional decline. He became notorious for his abusive behavior toward his ex-wife Tina Turner during their tumultuous marriage. Ike's violent temper and heavy drug use, particularly cocaine, contributed to the breakdown of their relationship. Their divorce in 1978 marked the end of Ike's career as a major figure in the industry. Tina's success, particularly in the 1980s as a solo artist, highlighted the contrast between the two, and Ike's reputation suffered greatly due to his abusive actions. By the 1990s, Ike Turner had descended into obscurity. His attempts to revive his career failed, and he was largely abandoned by the industry. In the years leading up to his death, Ike lived in poverty and isolation, battling addiction and facing financial struggles. He had sold off many of his prized possessions, including the guitar that played a role in the creation of Rocket 88. On December 12, 2007, Ike Turner died in his San Marcos, California home at the age of 76. His death, attributed to a cocaine overdose complicated by lung disease, was lonely and largely unremarked by the public. Ike's passing symbolized the tragic end of a career that was once filled with promise, now overshadowed by his personal demons and the legacy of his abuse. He was found in a cluttered, decaying house, surrounded by used needles and empty bottles. His final moments marked by the silence that had replaced the once celebrated music of his heyday. Etta James. Etta James, born James Etta Hawkins on January 25, 1938, in Los Angeles, California, was one of the greatest soul and blues singers of all time. Her career spanned over 6 decades, and her powerful, raspy voice earned her admiration and respect across multiple music genres, including R&B, gospel, jazz, and blues. James's rise to fame came in the late 1950s and early 1960s with hits like The Wallflower Dance with Me, Henry, and At Last. The latter became one of her signature songs and remains a timeless classic that has been covered by many artists across the years. However, James's career was far from simple. Despite her vocal brilliance, her personal life was marked by a tumultuous relationship with drugs and alcohol. Etta struggled with addiction for much of her life, which caused personal and professional setbacks. In the 1970s, her career faltered as she faced legal issues and was repeatedly sent to rehab for her heroin addiction. This difficult period led to a loss of momentum in her career, and it wasn't until the 1980s that she made a successful comeback, winning her first Grammy Award for Best Jazz Vocal Performance in 1989. In the years that followed, James received numerous accolades, including 6 Grammy Awards and 17 Blues Music Awards, cementing her status as a legendary figure in the music world. Despite her public triumphs, James's personal life remained a source of pain and isolation. She had 2 sons, but her struggles with addiction and her time spent in rehab kept her distant from them. In 2011, she was diagnosed with leukemia, which further compounded her physical and emotional hardships. On January 20th, 2012, at the age of 73, Etta James passed away from complications related to leukemia at a hospital in Riverside, California. Tragically, she died in relative solitude with no close family by her side. Though she was surrounded by doctors and hospital staff in her final moments, the absence of loved ones marked a sad and poignant end to the life of a woman who had once moved millions with her music. Etta James was buried in a private funeral attended by few, and her death, while deeply mourned by fans and fellow musicians, was a quiet reflection of her battles with addiction and the loneliness she faced in her final years. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway was a brilliant and soulful artist whose music left an indelible mark on the world. Born on January 20th, 1945 in Chicago, Illinois, Hathaway's powerful voice and emotional depth won the hearts of many in the 1970s. His collaborations with artists like Roberta Flack produced timeless classics such as Where Is the Love and The Closer I Get to You. Songs that showcased his ability to blend his raw, emotive voice with intricate arrangements. Hathaway's success was not limited to his duets. His solo albums, including Everything Is Everything and Donny Hathaway Live, cemented his place in soul and R&B history. However, Hathaway's life was overshadowed by his struggles with mental illness. In 1973, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and his mental health began to deteriorate. Despite his growing success, Hathaway's personal life became increasingly difficult to manage. His mental condition worsened, and he reportedly became paranoid and withdrawn, a stark contrast to the warmth and compassion he expressed through his music. He also faced addiction issues, turning to alcohol and drugs as a way to cope with his emotional turmoil. Donny Hathaway's downward spiral led to estrangement from family and friends. His relationship with his wife and children suffered, and his career began to falter as he struggled to balance his mental health with his professional life. Hathaway's tragic end came on January 13, 1979, when he fell to his death from a 15th-floor window of the Essex House Hotel in New York City. It is believed to have been a suicide, although the circumstances surrounding his death remain uncertain. Hathaway's passing was marked by the absence of any loved ones by his side in his final moments. His death at the age of 33 shocked the music world, and to this day, Donny Hathaway remains an icon of soul music, with his music continuing to inspire generations of listeners. His tragic end serves as a reminder of the profound and often invisible struggles that many artists face behind their public personas. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson's life has been one of fame, controversy, and eventual fall from grace. Born on July 9, 1947 in San Francisco, California, Simpson first captured the public's attention as a football star. As a running back for the Buffalo Bills, Simpson was a dominant force in the NFL, becoming the first player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season in 1973. His athletic prowess led to a successful career, including appearances in commercials, movies, and television, making Simpson a household name. In the 1970s and 80s, Simpson became a celebrated figure in American culture, a symbol of athletic excellence and success. However, Simpson's life took a dramatic turn in 1994, when he was accused of the brutal murders of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman. The highly publicized trial became a media circus, with millions of Americans glued to their televisions for the trial of the century. Simpson was acquitted of all charges, but public opinion remained divided. While some viewed the verdict as a triumph for Simpson, many others believed he was guilty, and his reputation never fully recovered. After the trial, Simpson's life spiraled downward. He faced significant financial problems, including a massive civil suit that left him owing over $33 million to the victims' families. Simpson was arrested in 2007 for armed robbery and kidnapping in connection with a botched attempt to recover sports memorabilia. He was convicted and sentenced to 33 years in prison, but served only 9 years before being released in 2017. By 2024, Simpson was dealing with prostate cancer, and his once glamorous life had become a far cry from the fame and wealth he had enjoyed in his prime. He lived in relative isolation in a Las Vegas home, his relationships with his children strained, and his public appearances few. On April 10, 2024, Simpson died alone at the age of 76, his body found in his home hours after his passing. Despite the fame and wealth he once had, Simpson's death was marked by loneliness and estrangement from family and friends. His life story, full of scandal, legal battles, and personal tragedy, ended in a quiet, somber death, overshadowed by the complexities of his past and the controversies that surrounded his life. Rick James. Rick James was one of the most iconic figures in funk music, with a career that spanned the 1970s and 1980s. Born on February 1, 1948 in Buffalo, New York, James rose to fame in the late 70s with his flamboyant style, wild performances, and undeniable talent. His music blended funk rock and R&B with hits like Super Freak, Give It To Me Baby, and Cold Blooded, becoming staples of the era. James's sound was bold, brash, and impossible to ignore, and he quickly became one of the defining artists of the funk genre. James was not just a musician, but a larger-than-life character who embraced excess in every way. His public persona was that of a wild, carefree party animal, always surrounded by beautiful women and a constant stream of cocaine. The success of his early career was matched only by his lavish lifestyle. James was infamous for his hedonistic ways, indulging in drug use and partying to excess, which eventually took a toll on his health and career. Despite his musical genius, his personal life was filled with scandal, and his notorious behavior became the subject of public fascination. By the mid-1990s, James's career was in decline. His legal troubles, including arrests for assault, and his ongoing struggles with addiction, caused him to fall from grace in the music industry. James attempted to stage a comeback, but was unable to recapture the magic of his earlier years. By 2004, his health had deteriorated significantly, partly due to his long battle with drug abuse. On August 6, 2004, Rick James died alone in his Los Angeles home at the age of 56 from heart failure complicated by his history of drug abuse, including a recent stroke and diabetes. His final years were spent in relative isolation, far removed from the fame and fortune that had once surrounded him. Despite his tragic end, James's legacy as a funk pioneer remains intact, and his music continues to influence generations of artists today. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman was an extraordinary soul and jazz singer whose hauntingly beautiful voice made her one of the most respected vocalists of her time. Born on July 6, 1949 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Hyman's career spanned several decades and included collaborations with some of the most influential artists in music. Her breakthrough came in the 1970s with the release of her debut album, Phyllis Hyman, which featured the hit No One Can Love You More. Throughout her career, Hyman's voice captivated audiences, and she was known for her ability to express deep emotion through her music, whether in jazz, R&B, or soul. Hyman's career was marked by a series of powerful performances, including appearances on Broadway and various television shows. She released several critically acclaimed albums and earned recognition for her distinct vocal style. Hits like You Know How to Love Me and Living All Alone became classics, cementing her place in the annals of soul music history. Her vocal range and ability to convey vulnerability through song set her apart from her contemporaries, and she earned a devoted fan base. However, despite her success, Hyman's personal life was plagued by deep struggles with depression, loneliness, and addiction. She became increasingly isolated from her family and friends as her mental health deteriorated. Her battle with alcoholism and prescription drug use intensified in the 1980s and 90s, which took a toll on both her career and her physical health. In 1995, Hyman's career had all but faded, and she was living in relative obscurity. On June 30, 1995, Phyllis Hyman was found dead in her New York apartment from an overdose of sleeping pills. She was 45 years old. Hyman's death was ruled as suicide, a tragic end for a woman whose brilliance and beauty were overshadowed by her personal demons. In her final years, Hyman had struggled with the pressures of the music industry and her personal battles. She had a history of feeling abandoned and alone, and her final days were spent in quiet isolation. Her death was not widely mourned by the public, but for those who knew her pain, it was an all-too predictable end to a life that had been filled with both greatness and sorrow. Today, Phyllis Hyman is remembered as one of the greatest voices of her generation, and her music continues to resonate with listeners who recognize her talent and the tragedy that marked her life. Prince born. Prince Rogers Nelson, on June 7, 1958, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was a musical genius whose influence spanned genres including pop, rock, funk, soul, and R&B. Known for his exceptional ability to play multiple instruments, write and produce his own music, Prince created timeless hits such as Purple Rain, Kiss, When Doves Cry, and 1999. His groundbreaking sound and avant-garde approach to both music and fashion made him a cultural icon. His ability to blend styles and create unique genre-defying music earned him critical acclaim and a massive global fan base. Prince's success was not just musical, but also personal. He was known for his enigmatic persona, challenging gender norms with his fashion choices, and often incorporating themes of sexuality, religion, and empowerment into his music. He was deeply private about his personal life, which only added to the mystique surrounding him. With over 100 million albums sold worldwide, he became one of the best-selling music artists of all time. His work as a multi-talented musician, producer, and composer earned him 7 Grammy Awards, an Academy Award, and countless other honors. However, behind the public persona, Prince struggled with his own demons. In the later years of his life, he became increasingly withdrawn, and his music took on a darker, more introspective tone. In the years leading up to his death, Prince faced battles with prescription drug addiction, particularly to painkillers. In April 2016, after performing multiple shows, it was reported that he had struggled with a flu-like illness. On April 21, 2016, Prince was found unresponsive in an elevator at his Paisley Park estate in Chanhassen, Minnesota. His death was later confirmed to be due to an accidental overdose of fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opioid. Even more tragically, it was later revealed that the pills Prince had been taking were counterfeit laced with fentanyl, which led to his fatal overdose. Prince's death at the age of 57 was a heartbreaking blow to the music world. Despite the adoration of millions, he spent his final moments alone, isolated in his estate. His death was a somber reminder of the toll that addiction can take on even the most brilliant of minds, and the loneliness that can accompany even the most celebrated lives. Prince's music continues to live on, but his passing left a profound sense of loss, marking the end of an era for both pop and soul music. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday, born Eleanora Fagan on April 7, 1915, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was a jazz and blues singer whose emotive and haunting voice made her one of the most revered figures in music history. Known for her deep, raw, and emotionally charged vocal style, Holiday's career spanned more than 2 decades, and she became one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. Her songs like Strange Fruit, God Bless the Child, and Lady Sings the Blues became anthems that addressed race oppression and personal heartbreak. Holiday's life was as troubled as it was extraordinary. Raised in poverty, Holiday faced unimaginable hardships from a young age, including being placed in foster care, enduring abuse, and facing racial discrimination. Despite these early struggles, she found solace in music, singing in Harlem's jazz clubs during the 1930s. Her early career was shaped by collaborations with the best jazz musicians of the era, such as Count Basie, Artie Shaw, and Lester Young, and her ability to convey deep emotion through her voice quickly set her apart from other singers of her time. However, Holiday's personal life was marred by addiction, particularly heroin and alcohol. Her struggles with substance abuse affected her career, relationships, and overall well-being. In the 1940s, Holiday's health began to deteriorate, and her battles with addiction became more public. Despite this, she continued to perform and record throughout the 1950s, though her best years were behind her. By 1959, Billie Holiday's health had severely declined due to years of alcohol and drug abuse. On July 17, 1959, at the age of 44, she passed away alone in a New York City hospital from complications related to cirrhosis of the liver, which had been exacerbated by her years of drug and alcohol abuse. During her final days, she had been estranged from her family, and there was no one by her side when she died. She was buried in a pauper's grave, a tragic end for a woman who had once captivated the world with her voice and her ability to communicate profound pain and beauty through song. Billie Holiday's death was a heartbreaking reminder of how addiction and personal struggles can overshadow even the most exceptional talents. Despite her immense success and lasting impact on jazz and blues music, she died in solitude and poverty. Today, Billie Holiday is remembered not just for her music, but for the tragedy that marked the end of her life, as well as the profound influence she continues to have on generations of artists who follow her. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was more than just a guitar virtuoso. He was a revolutionary artist whose music changed the landscape of rock, blues, and psychedelia. Born on November 27, 1942 in Seattle, Washington, Hendrix's musical journey began at a young age, influenced by his love for blues and rock music. He joined the military at 19, but his passion for music soon led him to leave the service and pursue his dream of becoming a professional guitarist. In the mid-1960s, he moved to London, where he formed the Jimi Hendrix Experience. His career took off quickly, and by 1967, his performances at the Monterey Pop Festival and Woodstock cemented his status as a global icon. Hendrix's innovative guitar techniques, such as his use of distortion feedback and wah-wah pedals, redefined the electric guitar and influenced countless musicians. His 1967 album, Are You Experienced?, became a landmark in rock music, featuring classics like Purple Haze, Hey Joe, and Foxy Lady. Hendrix's ability to blend blues, jazz, and rock into a unique sound made him a true innovator. His live performances, characterized by fiery improvisational solos, turned his concerts into unforgettable spectacles. However, Hendrix's rapid rise to fame came with its own set of struggles. Behind the scenes, he battled with substance abuse, particularly with drugs like LSD and heroin, and struggled with the pressures of being a young star in the public eye. His personal life was also turbulent, with brief and tumultuous relationships, most notably with Kathy Etchingham, and his many reported struggles with depression and loneliness. On September 18, 1970, Hendrix died at just 27 years old. He was found unconscious in his London apartment after asphyxiating on his own vomit following an overdose of sleeping pills. His passing was officially ruled as an accidental death, but the circumstances surrounding his final hours remain unclear. Despite his struggles, Hendrix's legacy has only grown since his death. He remains an immortal figure in music, not only for his groundbreaking guitar work, but for his raw, unfiltered expression through music. His death, surrounded by drugs, parties, and isolation, highlighted the darker side of fame. Hendrix's career was brief, but his influence on music is undeniable, making his early death a profound loss for the music world. Coolio. Coolio-born artist Leon Ivy Jr. on August 1, 1963 in Compton, California, was one of the defining voices of 1990s hip-hop. He first achieved national success with his 1995 hit, Gangsta's Paradise, which went on to become a worldwide anthem and earned him a Grammy Award for Best Rap Solo Performance. Coolio's distinct voice, combined with socially conscious lyrics and a catchy sound, helped solidify his place in hip-hop history. Gangsta's Paradise not only dominated the charts, but also became the theme song for the 1995 film Dangerous Minds, making Coolio a household name. Coolio's career was built on more than just Gangsta's Paradise. He released several successful albums and enjoyed a career that included both music and acting. His unique style, blending humor and raw street knowledge, set him apart from other artists in the genre. His ability to craft anthems about social issues while keeping them accessible to mainstream audiences made him one of the most prominent hip-hop figures of his time. However, despite his initial success, Coolio faced significant challenges in the years following his rise to fame. While he continued to make music, his career never reached the same heights again. His personal life also faced turbulence, including several legal and financial issues. Coolio battled with substance abuse, which affected both his personal relationships and his ability to maintain his career momentum. In the late 2010s, Coolio's fame had faded, and he lived a quieter life, often performing in smaller venues and occasionally appearing on reality TV shows. On September 28, 2022, at the age of 59, Coolio was found unresponsive in a friend's bathroom in Los Angeles. His cause of death was later confirmed to be an accidental fentanyl overdose. Despite his past struggles, Coolio's death came as a shock to many, as he had maintained a public persona of resilience, still performing and participating in events. The loss of this hip-hop legend marked the end of an era for fans who had once danced to his infectious beats. Coolio's legacy, especially with Gangsta's Paradise, continues to resonate, but his tragic passing from an overdose in a seemingly quiet moment reflects the often unseen struggles faced by artists even after their stars have faded. Florence Ballard. Florence Ballard, born on June 30, 1943 in Detroit, Michigan, was a founding member of the Supremes, one of the most successful and iconic girl groups in the history of music. The Supremes, originally formed in 1959, became Motown's flagship act, with Ballard alongside Diana Ross and Mary Wilson. As the group's original lead vocalist, Ballard's powerful voice played a crucial role in the early success of the Supremes, helping to create timeless classics such as Where Did Our Love Go and Baby Love. Her vocal talents were undeniable, and she was often considered the soul of the group. However, despite the group's early success, Ballard faced personal and professional struggles that would have a lasting impact on her life. The internal dynamics of the group began to shift in the mid-1960s, as Diana Ross increasingly took center stage and Ballard was gradually pushed out of the spotlight. These tensions, combined with the pressures of fame and a growing sense of being overshadowed, took a toll on Ballard's mental health. Her growing struggles with alcoholism and depression were compounded by her feeling of abandonment by her bandmates and the Motown management, which led to a breakdown in her career. In 1967, Ballard was unceremoniously replaced by Cindy Birdsong, and her departure from the Supremes marked the beginning of a downward spiral. Her career after leaving the group faltered, and she spent the following years in poverty and isolation, unable to regain the success she once enjoyed. By the mid-1970s, Ballard was living in a small, run-down apartment in Detroit, and her health was deteriorating due to her continued battle with alcoholism. On February 22, 1976, Florence Ballard died of a heart attack at the age of 32. She passed away alone with few people around to mourn her. Her death went largely unnoticed for several hours until a neighbor discovered her body. Despite her pivotal role in The Supremes, Ballard was largely forgotten by the world. Her death, a tragic end to the life of a woman who had once been one of the brightest stars in the music industry. Florence Ballard's life and death are a poignant reminder of how quickly fame can fade and how personal struggles can overshadow even the most successful careers. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman was a child star who became a household name thanks to his role as Arnold Jackson on the beloved TV sitcom Different Strokes. Born on February 8, 1968 in Zion, Illinois, Coleman's charm, quick wit, and iconic catchphrase, "What you talking about?" Willis made him one of the most recognized child actors of the 1970s and 80s. By the time he was 10 years old, Coleman had already earned millions of dollars, making him one of the wealthiest child stars in Hollywood at the time. However, his success was marred by an ongoing battle with kidney disease, which stunted his growth and led to multiple health problems throughout his life. As Coleman grew older, his fame began to fade. His financial troubles were exacerbated by the mismanagement of his wealth by his parents and managers who drained his fortune and left him with little money by the time he reached adulthood. After suing his parents and winning a small portion of his fortune back, Coleman struggled to regain his place in the industry. His career never fully recovered, and he found himself relegated to smaller roles, often in TV guest spots or reality shows. In addition to his professional struggles, Coleman's personal life was marked by difficulty. He faced a tumultuous marriage to Shannon Price in 2007, a relationship that was fraught with problems, including allegations of abuse. Though they separated, Price remained in Coleman's life, and their tumultuous relationship left him emotionally and financially drained. On May 26, 2010, at the age of 42, Gary Coleman suffered a fall in his home in Utah, which led to a brain hemorrhage. He was rushed to the hospital where he was placed on life support. Just 2 days later, Coleman was taken off life support and passed away. His ex-wife, Shannon Price, made the controversial decision to pull the plug on his life support, and his death was marked by the absence of his family. There was no public outpouring of grief from fans or Hollywood, and the world took notice of the tragic and overlooked end to a career that had once seemed so full of promise. Coleman's passing was a stark reminder of the dark side of child stardom as his life ended in isolation, overshadowed by financial struggles and personal hardship. Gary Coleman's life and death serve as a cautionary tale about the perils of fame, particularly for those who achieve it at such a young age. DMX, born Earl Simmons on December 18, 1970 in Mount Vernon, New York, was one of the most influential and raw voices in hip-hop. Known for his gritty delivery, emotional depth, and unapologetic authenticity, DMX's music resonated deeply with fans across the world. He burst onto the scene in the late 1990s with his debut album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, in 1998, which became an instant classic. The album, featuring hits like Rough Riders Anthem and Get At Me Dog, showcased DMX's unique style, combining street narratives with raw emotion, all underscored by his aggressive delivery and haunting growls. His music was both cathartic and relentless, offering a voice to those who lived in the same struggles he rapped about. DMX's success continued into the early 2000s with albums like Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, 1998. And then there was X 1999 and the Great Depression 2001, cementing his place as one of the era's most dominant and versatile hip-hop artists. His distinct voice with its raspy growling quality and his fearless authenticity made him an icon. DMX earned multiple platinum certifications, acting roles in movies like Belly and Romeo Must Die, and a Grammy nomination, securing his legacy as one of the greats in rap music. However, behind the scenes, DMX's life was fraught with personal demons. Struggling with drug addiction, legal issues, and bouts of mental health challenges, DMX's public persona often contrasted sharply with the chaos that surrounded his personal life. His battles with addiction were well documented, and his involvement in numerous legal issues, including several arrests for assault, drug possession, and tax evasion, led to a tumultuous career and personal life. Despite his struggles, DMX's supporters always rallied behind him, seeing him as a figure who embodied resilience and a sense of authenticity in an often shallow world of celebrity. In 2021, DMX's life took a tragic turn when on April 2nd, he suffered a heart attack which was later determined to be caused by a drug overdose. He was rushed to White Plains Hospital in New York and placed on life support, but he never regained consciousness. On April 9, 2021, after spending a week in a coma, DMX passed away at the age of 50. His death was met with an outpouring of grief from fans, friends, and fellow artists, highlighting the deep impact his music and persona had on the culture. Despite fathering over 15 children, none of his children were reported to be by his side during his final moments, symbolizing the loneliness that often accompanies even the most successful figures. DMX's death was a sobering reminder of the ravages of addiction, mental health issues, and the harsh realities of fame. His struggles and his tragic passing underscored the emotional battles many artists face behind their public success. DMX's legacy, however, remains intact. His music continues to inspire, his raw vulnerability remains unmatched, and his place in hip-hop history is forever secure. The tragic stories of 15 black celebrities who died alone highlight the hidden struggles behind fame and success. From Red Fox's lonely death on a TV set to DMX's tragic passing after a battle with addiction, these icons left us too soon, often isolated in their final moments. Despite their enormous impact on music, film, and culture, their lives were marked by personal battles that went unseen by the public. What can we learn from their stories about the cost of fame? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more compelling narratives.